Professor Bauer, let me be one of the first, hopefully, to virtually congratulate you on becoming president of the European Construction Industry Federation, FIEC. As I understand it, it's a 2-year tenure as president.
Yes.
I can't imagine 2 more challenging years in the construction industry than those we have ahead of us now. Did you have to think twice about accepting the invitation to become president right now?
Yes. Actually, I was president of the German Construction Industry Association for a period of around 6 years. And before that, actually, I was heading the Bavarian Association for 16 years. So I was also in Germany doing a lot of things. I was in charge of all union contracts negotiation for a period of around 10 years. I did a lot with our social institutions in the construction industry, where I was heading this for about 10 years. So I did a lot of things. And when I finished being president of the German Construction Industry Association, I was around 60, 61 years old, don't remember exactly, but I decided now I take it a little bit more easy with all of these kind of jobs. And I said, okay, I'm willing to be part of FIEC for a few years because I was very interested just to get this feel of Europe. And you only get this feel of Europe if you work in an institution for a period of time. So I took this role as the vice president of FIEC, and I was in charge of economy. And in my thinking, this was it. I didn't want to do more. But the last 3 years were quite complicated years because of many things in Europe. In some countries, construction industry was very successful. In other years, construction industry was still in a recovery. Like if you look at Portugal, Spain, so they really, Turkey got into a difficult situation. So they had real difficult times. So there was extremely good ones and extremely difficult areas. And so also an association is quite complicated if the difference is large. And so I think it was challenging years, and I was quite involved during these years. And at the end, everybody said I have to be president. So actually, at the beginning, I was not completely happy. But then I said, okay, I take the challenge and do it for 2 years. I didn't know Corona is coming up. If I would have known that, I don't know. I don't even know if with Corona it's going to be more or less work, because actually traveling will be still quite difficult. So actually, I think at least for the next half a year, most of the things will still happen from home or from Brussels. Yeah. So I think my predecessor, Kettil Tonning, I think he had much more traveling, which what I will have, because it's just not that possible in the next time.
Sure. Now, you've obviously been in the industry for a long time, and for much of that, you seem to have mixed business. You're chairman of the board with Bauer Group, and politics, as you say, with German associations and with FIEC. Do you think to operate in the political world regarding construction, you need to really understand the business of construction?
I think so, yes. I think construction is a quite different kind of business than any other business. See, most of our companies don't sell products. They sell a service. And selling service has complete different rules of how markets work. Actually, we have some companies which sell products, like those who sell prefabricated houses or things like that. But most sell a service. They don't develop the products themselves. They get a plan and they get a need from the client, and they have to do the service according to that. So actually pricing jobs in the construction industry has complete different rules than pricing jobs, products like in car manufacturing. So I think people who do not understand the specifics of construction industry, I think they have a difficult time to talk to politics, because actually politics also doesn't understand it. Everybody in politics was the same actually for me. When I was a student, I studied economy. And in university, you learn how a car manufacturer works. You learn how a big food supply company works. But nobody teaches you how a construction company, how a service company works. And actually, when I got into construction industry, it's the first 2 years, I could not fit it together, what I learned in school and how it reality was. And so I also had to do a lot of learning for that. And so I personally believe, especially in construction industry, you have to have a feel for our industry to talk to politics and also to give the right advice. Because the normal advice for other industries is very often the wrong advice for construction industry, because our industry works completely different. So I think it's necessary.
Great. Now, I think I know the answer to this next question, but I just wonder what's at the top of your list of priorities as you start your new position as president of FIEC.
I think at the moment nobody even have to think about this. I think with the Corona crisis, it's very clear. I think the biggest problem for all industry and also for construction industry is how do we get out of the crisis. In Europe, they call it recovery programs and recovery measures. I think we will have to talk a lot about this. Actually, two months ago, I was still of the opinion that construction industry will have a much easier go through this crisis and also afterwards. Because actually in most countries, actually we had, especially in Germany, we have a very good backlog of work in hand. So actually if everybody felt with this backlog, it will be an easy go into the future. And until we have reduced the backlog a little bit, everything will go back to normal. Today, I think this impression was quite wrong. Because, and we already get the feedback from all countries and from all construction companies, that the flow of new projects is getting reduced a lot. And there's quite a lot of, there's two big reasons to that. First big reason is all government bodies which are on a lower level, communities, counties, they will have huge budget problems in the coming 2 years. And I do not know if the top government of the countries, like in Germany, the Bundesregierung, which is the government of the whole country, if they can subsidize enough that the lower level of government bodies can continue with their investment programs. And this will show in the next 2-3 months. We will have to do a lot of talking that the governments don't forget the lower bodies but I think whatever help they give, they will not invest as much as before, because this is, I know the problems for my local community, it's dramatic. This is just dramatic, because a community first has to spend the money for people and for the normal work they have to do, and on top of this they can invest. But if you lose 30% of your tax, or 40%, which they will probably lose 30%, do not even have enough money for the normal ongoing business they have to do. So for investments, there's no money. And so they have to take everything from the banks. And so I think there will be less work. This is very clear. This is number one. And number two are the companies. See, I would suppose that about half of all companies, industries, companies will be hurt tremendously by Corona. There's another half which will not be so much hurt, like everybody who is in food supply, farmers, they will have quite a normal year and everything will be quite normal. Also quite a lot of service companies like auditors, tax, they will have a normal life. There will not be a change. And also companies who are in education, whatever, this will not change a lot. But there will be others who are tremendously hurt, like those who are in tourism, and they are tremendously hurt. Mm. And these companies, which are tremendously hurt, they will make big losses, and they will have a much reduced share capital after this crisis. And every good leader of a company, if he has such a situation, the first thing he is doing, he is saying, stop investment and try to get your capital back, that you have a good financial basis. So I believe that we will have a tremendous reduction in jobs from industrial companies, which and we already feel it today, because quite a lot of our clients who are in this kind of field, they are postponing building sites, they are stopping new projects, and we already get the feedback of this. So I personally think this will be a lot. And so I think construction industry in quite a lot of countries of Europe, they came through the crisis quite well, like in Germany, not so much in France or in Italy, but okay, 2-3 months loss of turnover, yeah, somehow you can somehow work through that. But the bigger problem for construction industry is that we believe that for the coming 1 to 2, I would say 2 years, the inflow for new projects will be quite bad. And the central governments cannot compensate for this. At the moment, everybody believes we will have big programs for infrastructure, for everything from the central governments. But in construction industry, it just doesn't work like this. That you just say, now we have a few billion, let's spend them. If you want to spend a few billion, you have to find the project, you have to plan it, you have to get it through all permissions that you're allowed to build it, which the laws have not changed. So everybody can say no, and you have the environmentalists who say, no, we don't want it at all, or we want something different. So we all know this process takes, it never takes less than 1 year, and normally it takes 3 to 5 years. And so it's not easy that the central government just pushes it. So I think construction industry will have difficult years to come, and we have to push very hard that governments understand what I just explained to you. Because I tell you, if I ask any German politician at the moment, they will, how is construction industry? They will all give you the same answer. Construction industry is the most easy through the crisis. Construction industry has the best backlog, and anyway, we will put a lot of money into construction industry for recovery programs. You can be the most happy guys. But this is unfortunately not the truth. It's not working. This is not how the industry works.
That's very interesting, because I honestly thought you were going to echo what a lot of the media is saying, that construction would be one of the primary drivers to get us out of the recession we're in, but it sounds as though you think quite the opposite and not optimistic about the next year or two.
I'm not. I think the construction industry is always a good driver to get countries out of a recession. The corona crisis is a little bit different. The problem is that the industrial companies have no money and they have no investment possibilities, and governments cannot replace that. It's impossible. So you have to just to get a feeling. In normal countries, about 1/3 of construction turnover is government. 1/3, 30%, something, doesn't matter, approximately. Out of this third, 2/3 is local level, so communities and counties, and the other third is central government and in Germany, countries like Bavaria and the countries. So it's 1/3, 2/3. And the central government and the countries, like in Germany, Bavaria, Hessen, and so on, I don't know how you call it, we call it countries. We say central and countries, and then we have, I don't know the English one, but you understand. Yeah. This level, the 1/3 level, cannot replace the 2/3 level. And government cannot replace private and industrial and company spending. And this is what it makes it difficult in this crisis, because too many are hurt and it's very difficult to get the necessary push. This is actually the reason why I am saying government needs to help companies to help themselves. At the moment, they don't do that. At the moment, all government help is liquidity help. So they help them to pay tax a little bit later, and they help them to pay social security later, and they give credit lines, and a lot of liquidity help. But extremely little help to keep the capital, to keep the basis of a company, because companies without capital cannot operate. So to keep the capital, and I think you have to help find solutions that companies preserve their capital. This is possible by two ways. The first way is actually to subsidize cost, which is very difficult for governments. So you can subsidize a little bit, but you cannot subsidize a lot, because also people would not understand that. All our tax money goes into companies, so you can only do it up to a certain point. And the other possibility is to give companies the right to change the balance sheet rules, which at the moment nobody likes to do, which I think is a big mistake. Because actually, just look at a construction company. If a construction company does not use equipment for 6 months because there's a lockdown, why does the construction company has to write down as cost the construction equipment? Why can you not move the write down into the future with some method and give the companies a chance to keep the capital in the balance sheet? And I think government should think about such kind of solutions, and liquidity help, give it to help to do that, to finance the change of financing into the future. And with this, you could get the situation that companies are much more able to just keep on investing like they were used to do in the past. I think this would help a lot to stabilize the situation, because it's not only government spending that can help, it needs the spending of everybody and the push of everybody. So I have my own thoughts about this. I'm talking about this with politicians up to now. Actually, this idea, I do not find a lot of people who want it, because probably it's quite complicated thinking, but maybe after some time, politicians will realize that it doesn't only work with budgets. This is not enough.
Very interesting to get an economist's view on the situation, I have to say. Germany is one country which seems to have dealt with the virus very well, both in terms of preventing the spread of the virus and in terms of the economy. Obviously, it's suffering like all countries in Europe. But what lessons do you think other countries can learn from the way Germany dealt with the virus?
I think there's two parts of this. Part number one is to deal with the health problems and how you organize the lockdown, and how this all works, and who is allowed to work, how they have to stay home, and all of this. I think the German politicians did a good job, but they were also lucky a little bit, because they saw what happened in other countries. Actually, in Germany, the problem was about 2 weeks later to other countries like Austria, like Italy. And Germany saw what happens if you don't react fast. And so actually, I think the politicians did a very good job with closed down measures, but they also did a good job not stopping everything. See, as an example, in Germany, construction industry was not stopped. Actually, we as construction industry representatives, I was also involved in this quite a lot. We always said, don't stop construction industry, because in construction, the health hazards are much, much less than in other companies. See, you have to know, in Germany, as an example, there are 60,000 construction companies. Out of the 60,000, 58,000 have less than 10 people. And these companies can only work on 2 job sites at a time. So, and there's always only 2-3 people together on 1 job site. So actually, the vast majority has no problem at all, because if you have an infection on 1 job site, it doesn't put a problem to another or put a problem to another company. So the hazard for infection in construction industry is much, much less. And for the big companies, you have a lot of outside work. So you work on road jobs, on a road job. If you organize well your office containers, and your infection hazard is very, very little. So there's only a very few jobs in construction industry which is a problem, which is inside jobs where people work very close together, and those you just have to stop, or you have to reduce people and work slower or whatever. And in Germany, they did not stop construction industry. They accepted our arguments, and actually construction was really going on like normal. And actually, I would say construction was at a level of 85 to 95%. I don't know exactly, we don't have final numbers, but that's the level. So this is to deal with the health hazards, a little bit of luck, and also I think what was good was how we dealt with construction industry.
Okay, well, I wish you well. It's going to be a long, hard road, I know that, but I do appreciate your time, I really do. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and best of luck with the next 2 years. I'm sure we'll speak again.
Yeah.